The crisis rocking the Association of Nigerian Licensed Customs Agents, Anlca, has left members wondering if there's ever going to be an end to this tale. Chairman Board of Trustees BOT Taiwo Mustapha, in this interview, tell his sides of the story.
But it boils down to the issue of the fact that when we decided to drop justice and equity in the association, things started falling apart. When we decided to do things right and face the reality of this is what is right, this is what is wrong, we started when we elected Tony Iju Nwabunike as the president. The ideal thing in the association for the period that I've been so active in it, the board is the highest organ in the association, while the national executive handles the day-to-day running of the association. So we work together along with the chapter level, that is at the branch levels. Now, we have an unwritten norm in the association when it comes to elections and key positions. The key positions in the association today, we have the national president, the board of trustee chairman, and the electoral body chairman. So in order to create a sense of belonging to every member of the association, because we all come from different parts of the country, but majorly we have the Yorubas and our Yoruba brothers. We have our brothers in the north. So we always find a way of sharing these key positions among the three ethnic groups. So incidentally, as at the time we were supposed to go in for this election, we were having the former president, Olayiwola Shitu, as the president. We were having Henry Njoku as the board of trustee chairman, and we were having Oyinba as the electoral body chairman. So that is to say, our Igbo brothers were occupying two key positions, and Yoruba were occupying one key position in the association. So when we had to go for the national election in 2018, within us in the board, we decided, okay, after the national election must have taken place in Enugu, because it was already considered as at that time that the Igbo should take over as the president. So let us find a way of shifting the position of the board of trustee chairman to the Yoruba. So it was unwritten agreement. Unwritten agreement within the board. It's in our minutes. So immediately after the election, we're all happy, okay, the election has come and gone, despite the fact that the former president was having his own candidate, but his candidate didn't win. He had no option than to hand over to whoever has won. So he had to hand over to Tony Iju, who won the election with 3 votes. And the norm within the board is that each time there is any key occasion coming up in the association, a day before, the board will meet to harmonize our position so that when we get to either the National Executive Council, that's NEC. Yes. So the board will already have our own position on what we want to present. So not when we get there, we start any argument within ourselves. So it was agreed a day before that we should conduct another election in view of what we have already agreed before, that after the National Executive, committee election, whoever comes up as the president, we're going to have another election for the position of the board of trustees chairman. So we agreed, and we decided that night we should have another election. Of course, Henry Njoku kicked against it, that we shouldn't hold any election. Peter Obi kicked against it. But we looked at it within ourselves. We are 8 in the board. So 2 cannot override 8 of us, the remaining 6. So we went ahead, conducted the election. So it was 5 votes against 2. While one person, the late Areshoni Shitu, may Allah forgive him wherever he is, decided to abstain on the basis that he was pleading with both parties. Let's agree within ourselves, don't let us quarrel, don't let us fight. So, on that night, of course, it created issues within us. We all left. And that was the beginning of the crisis. So we immediately after the election that night, 5 of us moved to Tony Iju because he had already emerged as the president and we were to inaugurate him the next day. So we went and met him. This is what has happened. So, but however, tomorrow being the inauguration, let's be silent about it. Let's go ahead with our inauguration. So thereafter, we'll find a way of meeting within ourselves. So, and that is exactly what happened. But because Tony was looking at it differently, or those who were supporting him were looking at it differently, that for those of us who voted against Henry Njoku, we were not his supporters. We didn't vote for him to come in. So he felt like this was his time for him to get his own pound of flesh by refusing to recognize Taiwo Mustapha as the Board of Trustees chairman. So when he did that, our own guys who were supporting us, mainly from the Western Zone, came up after some months to say, if you are not going to recognize Taiwo Mustapha as the Board of Trustees chairman, we were not going to recognize you as our president again. So the person who was his co-contestant is our own new president. And you could see from one issue to the other thereafter, we kept dragging it to this point. Now, you see, after the Board of Trustees chairmanship election, the one I was referring to now, a few months after, one of us, Peter Obi, went to court to sue me that I should stop parading myself as the Board of Trustees chairman. He went and sued me in the Federal High Court. After like about 1 year, I think the judge called both parties. Both parties go and agree within yourself and resolve this. If I give this judgment, that is Justice Aikawa. If I give this judgment, it wasn't going to favor both sides. It's not going to favor both sides. But somehow, after pleading with Obi to withdraw the case, he didn't. The judge gave the judgment and said Taiwo Mustapha should stop parading himself as the Board of Trustees chairman. Because as at that time, we were not registered in the corporate affairs. So you can't even be a board member, legally speaking, until you are registered in the corporate affairs. You understand the point from that angle? Now, what did Obi go there with? In 2014, after our election into the board, they filled form. Oh no, shortly before 2014, you know, they were already in the board. Himself, Henry, and Prince Taiwo Yeni. So they went to the corporate affairs to register the board at that time.
Oh, okay.
So the form they filled, received by corporate affairs, they didn't do the follow-up to finish the process. So it was that form, because of the stamp of the corporate affairs on it, that was the one Obi took to court to say Taiwo Mustapha's name is not on this form. So Taiwo Mustapha cannot be board chairman because he's not a member of the board. They deceived the court. They deceived the judge with that. So when the judgment came out, my own side were saying we should appeal it. And having studied the judgment, I sat down and I looked at it. I said, even if I'm not a lawyer, I think it's simple. The judge has said, you are not yet registered as a board in corporate affairs as a board member. So you can't give what you don't have. So I quietly left it that way. I went to corporate affairs. I dusted our file. And now realize that the last registration of the board that was done for the association was 2001. So all the subsequent board members who were there thereafter were never registered. So even the one Obi was claiming, the process was not complete. Because we kept I now asked Henry, who was the chairman then, the corporate affairs certificate. He kept saying, oh, he left it in Owerri, he left it in Port Harcourt, he left it. So he never brought it out because the certificate was never there. So the corporate affairs told me, okay, if you want us to do the registration, pay all the outstanding annual due from 2001 to 2020. So I paid everything from my pocket.
Wow.
Just to update that record. Now I collected the certificate. On the basis of that certificate, we went back to the same judge, Aikawa. Now we have collected the certificate. You said we cannot operate. I couldn't have been board member. So on the basis of that, Justice Aikawa gave another order that all the decisions taken before the registration of the board, as at that time, became null and void. And part of the decisions, the decisions taken, and part of the functions of the board was to supervise the election. So we supervised the election that brought in Tony Iju as the president and the National Executive Committee as at that time. So that is to say, all of them. So, and Aikawa gave that court order that all of them remains suspended from office. I hope you are following.
Yes.
So you can see that the issue was becoming more complex. 2020, like about a month after I collected the certificate, because I felt aggrieved this time around, that I wouldn't want my name to go down as somebody who was humiliated out of the association. At that point, I tried to speak with Henry, I tried to speak with the late Are, and I spoke with Tony as the president. Can you call us together so we could talk within ourselves? Tony was part of us in the board. So now when you are there, because part of the claim from Henry was that there was no election that night, the day we conducted the election, that there was no election. And I said, okay, fine. Now we are registered. 8 of us, our names are on the board, on the corporate affairs certificate now. Because
Henry Njoku.
Yes, including Henry Njoku. You see, what I did there, despite the fact that some of us were against me putting Henry Njoku and Peter Obi's name on the certificate, I said no. For me, maybe this will bring us back together. Put their names. So we are now have 8 members. We now have 8 names on the certificate. So I told Tony, I said, we have 8 names on this certificate now. I couldn't have put your name because you have gone out to contest as president. Now you are the president. So let's call all of us together. While we're there, appeal to both sides that we should shoot our shots. If Henry say there was no election that time, let's conduct another election that same day, so that we know where we're going. We can resolve this problem. He called all of us. 9 of us were there. And what Tony only did was to say, please, I'm appealing to all of you, give Henry some time. And the question they now ask him, when you won your own election as president, did Shitu tell you to give him some time before he handed over to you? No. That's not equity. Henry may be your ally. Yeah. But when you are the president, stand for justice. So when he refused that, my own supporters in the board, Chief NSL Echuku, Prince Ayoniyini, Chief Dennis Okafor, and Mr. Dayo Assis. They all decided they wanted to walk out. I appealed to them they should sit down. Let's finish whatever he wants to say. At the end of the day, they left me, Henry, and Tony. And I asked, Tony, what exactly do you want? This is your regime. Don't let us scatter it. What exactly do you want? He said he wanted him just to give him some time. I now realize why he was requesting for that is this. CRFFN election was coming. So he needed Henry as the board chairman. Because as at that time, the association was not in support of the CRFFN election coming. Yeah, when Shitu was there, the association took the case to court. So he needed Henry to support him so that we could withdraw the case from court, go for the CRFFN election. Having realized that game, I decided to keep quiet. I told our guys, give them 3 months. 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Each time they call, what is happening? I said, cool down. We will resolve issue within ourselves. So at the end of the day, they had CRFFN election. He came and gone. Henry was made vice chairman of the CRFFN. At that point, I called Tony. It would be more honorable for Henry to simply say, because of he has emerged as vice chairman of this CRFFN, he was dropping the board of trustee issue. It will be more honorable for him. But rather than doing that, he kept holding on to it. So the crisis kept on. So on the strength of that, now coming back to where I was going, I now took the same certificate, went back to the Federal High Court. Now, our tenure was supposed to have ended in 2020. So that was about 2 months before the registration. So the Federal High Court now gave another order that in view of KAMA, what KAMA says, that it is when you are registered as in the corporate affairs, that is when your tenure as for 6 years starts. So that is what I got out of the Federal High Court. That from this day, 16th of February 2020, the tenure of the board, including Henry Njoku, Peter Obi, everybody, the tenure commences till 2026. Section that says when you are registered in corporate affairs, that's when you are recognized as member of the board. As member of the board. But let's even look at it from another angle. I've been in the board for a period of 6 months, out of which, for a period of 6 years, out of which about 5 years of it was like cantankerous, crisis within us. I wasn't looking at it from that angle. I was even looking at it from another moral point of view. That for me, for the 8 of us coming back again, even if it is for a few months, coming back together, laugh together, sit down together, gist together, then we'll be able to come up within ourselves and agree. Perhaps let's forget about whatever the court has said, whatever KAMA has said, based on our mutual agreement. Let's go back for another election. That was what I was targeting. So, but when they look at it differently, I wasn't the one who initiated the court process in the first place. Obi was the one who initiated it. So, and when there is fight like this, when there is crisis, you use what you have to get what you want. Sure. I never wanted a situation where the association will be led to this kind of level of crisis. After the registration, they approach corporate affairs. That when we were doing the registration, the court process was on, where Obi sued me, and that the corporate affairs shouldn't have registered that time. So they confused corporate affairs. The corporate affairs said, oh, okay, if that is the case, go and bring the certificate back. They wrote. Or even before then, called all the parties. So the letter got to the secretariat. Whoever received it, I learned the secretary, the former secretary, Mukala, received the certificate, and he didn't let us know on our own side. So they went there on their own and presented it as if they were both parties. So they agreed that, okay, we are both parties, we agree, we draw the certificate. So when I went back to corporate affairs, incidentally, as at that time, the director of compliance had already become Registrar General. So I went to see him. And he said, this is your issue. I thought it's already resolved. You guys came and said we should. I said, no. It was a deceit. We never agreed that certificate, to withdraw certificate on what basis? That the association shouldn't exist again or what? The registration in this corporate affairs is what makes the association to be existing legally. Yes. So are we going to come here to say withdraw the certificate? The worst that would have happened is to forward another set of names to you to say these are the new trustees. Now did that. The registrar now instructed that, okay, write another letter. Before the letter could come, they already forwarded the names of their new trustees that they elected at Owerri to the corporate affairs. The corporate affairs saw it and said, oh, you guys are making this thing more complex. So the corporate affairs now wrote another letter. We are not going to register anybody again. We are not going to change anything. The certificate will remain until when all the parties sort out the issues in the court. I'll give you a copy of that letter. I'll give you a copy. So that is where we are as far as that is concerned.
Okay.
So which one supersedes which? You will see the date. The date they wrote the letter to withdraw the certificate, and the date they wrote another letter. Which one supersedes? You will see. You see, I laugh when some people say certain things just to get cheap publicity or cheap goals. In fairness, and I'm going to say it, that Tony just called that all the Western Zone chapter executives should be co-opted back into the mainstream. But when you say you are co-opting people back into the mainstream and you are giving them 3 months that you are going to conduct another election for all the chapters when it wasn't time. As at that time, their tenure hadn't expired. But because you wanted them to go, he decided to appoint interim.
Before the expiration of the tenure?
Yes, before the expiration of their tenure, he decided to appoint interim into all those chapters. The record is there. He appointed interim to all the chapters. But when he couldn't have a headway there, at the end of the day, okay, let's co-opt them, resolve the issues. But when you say you want to resolve issues, you don't hold stick and tell goats to come when you are pointing carrots to the goats. It wouldn't work. They are not small boys. Now, at a point, when there was crisis in the secretariat, we met in CP's office, specifically in the OC SAS then,
Okay.
OC SAS office. And he said, having listened to both parties, can you all go home, write out your resolutions, what you want, and let us meet here tomorrow. However, I want only the president and the board of trustee chairman on this side to come tomorrow without coming with anybody. Myself and Tony, we met there. And I asked him, I said, Tony, what do you want? He said he wanted another publication that says they are not recognizing him as president. So he wants another counter publication. I said one. He said he wanted all the chapters audit account to be done. I said two. He said he wanted all the dues they have not been paying to the national to be paid up to date. I said three. He wanted all the court cases to be withdrawn. I said four. He counted like that, one after the other. So he wanted something, he wanted all that 8 issues. I said, okay, fine. Without looking back, without going back to anybody to discuss anything, Tony, between me and you, all these 8 you have requested, granted. And I swear that whatever I agree with you here today is binding on my people. But the only thing I'm asking you, the issue of the board that created this problem, remove your hand. If you still want to conduct another election tomorrow, call Henry, call all of us, conduct another election, whoever emerges as the chairman, take it that way. I don't care. I never wanted to be board chairman, I never requested for it. And I told him the story. I said, you remember you came to me 3 times in Port Harcourt to come and work with you to be your vice president. But I didn't give you my word. I kept telling you, I will think of it. I will think of it because of my nature. Once I give you my words, it becomes binding on me. And why I didn't give you my words? Because on the other side, I was already having pressure from my Yoruba brothers and sisters in the West. Alhaji, you are based in the East. You have a wife that's Igbo. You are a Yoruba. You can speak some elements of Hausa. So we want somebody that can balance this thing up. So when you are in the board, we see you as somebody who is a bit, more refined than those people that we think we can rely on. I say, everybody, we laugh over it. Everybody is refined. Is it because I wear suit? Others don't wear suit. We laugh over it. And I said, okay, fine. With the pressure you guys are giving me, I will take it up. And I told Tony, I said, because of that pressure, and because of the pressure that was coming from the former president, Prince Olaye Olashitu, somebody I respect so much, Tony, please permit me. I said, but because you have come to me 3 times to come and work with you, Tony, I'm giving you my words now. I will do everything to make your administration smooth. I will work with you. Just allow this thing. He said no. That we have to go back to conduct, for AGM, to bring another board. That Taiwo must go. And he can assure me that he will make sure he work for me to become the chairman of that same board. I said, Tony, you are not helping matters. If you give that condition, you are not helping matters. You can't conduct another AGM to bring another board in. Resolve the one that is already there. Some months back, we met in the office of the CP Lagos. Because at that time, they went and brought one judgment from Abeokuta that their own board of trustee is legally elected and should be allowed to run the association. At one point we made the CP to realize is that you can't continue to deceive people. They divided themselves into two. One party as plaintiff, the other party as defendant. They sued themselves, came up with Jankara judgment. And number one, we said to the CP, in the first place, we are not parties to this judgment. None of us on this side, you have the name here. And the CP looked at it and started calling the names. The so-so person, Henry Njoku, this side. Lamin, this side. Mayor Ikweche, this side. Tony Iju, this side. Mukaila, called all their names. And they were all answering from the other side. They said, what happened to this side? We said that is the gimmick there. They deceived the court. And of course, I at a point, I said, I will visit that issue. The lawyers involved, I will petition the bar. So, but that is by the way. So what I'm saying is that after that day, the CP said, okay, fine. Go and sit down and resolve issues within yourself. So 5 from here, we sat down. We opened talk within ourselves. And I told Henry that day, I told Obi that day, I said since the beginning of this crisis, I think after like 3 years, this is the first time we are sitting down to look at ourselves in the eyes. I think this is a good way to go, to start. Let us come up. After complaining, oh, you did this to me, you did that to me, we now came back to, okay, weigh out suggestions. And I came up and said, wait. Number one, the crisis started from the board. Let's go back to the same board issue. You have elected some people as your own board members. We still have our own board. Henry Joku, are you still interested to continue as a board? Because I've been hearing that you say you have resigned, he said no, he's no longer interested. I say fine. Obi, are you still interested? He said he's no longer interested. Because both of them have gone to council, CRFFN. So okay, fine. Our Sonishitu is dead. So remaining 5 of us out of 8. The board's supposed to be 9. I said let's take 4 from the other board. Let's take 4 names. Join in with these 5. So form a new board. That's one. I said you guys have gone to Owerri to amend the constitution to increase the tenure of the national executive to single tenure of 5 years for the national executive, 4 years for the chapter executive, 6 years for the board. I said what we're going to do there is, despite the fact that we were not part of that constitutional amendment that you guys have done, but in the interest of peace, let's take it that way. So for the remaining part of the regime, between this April 16 to April 16 next year, which is 1 year more, let your national executive remain in the office. We will work with them. The chapter executives as well, let them enjoy the same privilege. Their tenure has expired. Let them remain for another 1 year to make their own 4 years as well. And why I'm suggesting that is that both our board and your board, then the national executive and our own boys in the chapter executive, they will be able to come back together, laugh together, gist together the way it used to be. So when we call NEC meeting, it's an enlarged house. So that we bring back good old memories. I said that is fundamental. Having agreed that way, Fanito came up and said no. He has agreed NECOM to remain, but that of chapter executives, Tinker must go.
Only Tinker.
Eh?
Only Tinker.
Only Tinker must go because he wanted another election in Tinker. I said, why do you want Tinker to go? He said, because the election that was conducted by our board was not legal. I said, oh, okay. If you are looking at it from that angle, the election that was conducted at the airport by your own board should go as well. He said, no, nobody will go to the airport to go and tell them that they should conduct another election there. I said, okay, fine. You were part of Tinkan. You were chairman in Tinkan before. Go to Tinkan and go and tell your members that you want another election there. If you have the guts. I said, we can't be going front and back. What is good for A should be good for B, so as to allow peace to reign. Otherwise, another complex issue will come up. So, on the basis of that, we left. Only for me and Munkaila and some other people to meet later. And they said they thought that what I suggested was that 9 of their own members should join 5 of our own members in the board to make it 14. I said, why are we deceiving ourselves? The constitution says 9 members in the board. Why do you want to extend it to 14? Is that constitutional? To create another lacuna or another precedent that somebody will cite tomorrow and say, oh, when it happened like this. Remember, you guys created some bad precedent in the East when you created third tenure for a chapter chairman, and some other people are still climbing on that to tomorrow to say it happened to so person, so we can still have it. Don't create problem. If we know we want peace, it's give and take. So if we drop this, you should drop some. If you accept this, you guys should accept this. So that is my own position till tomorrow. If they want it that way, for their own neck up, but now, when they did agree to that, and they kept on running, behaving as if nothing has happened. That was when, after 16th of April, we gave them time to come up. When they didn't come up, that was when we came up with that issue of interim government.
Okay.
That, okay, we will appoint interim regime for national executive. So it's not as if one just woke up and created it.
Okay.
We gave time. Between that time till now, we are talking of like 5 months already gone.
Okay.
So if they actually wanted the peace, they would have come back to say, okay, even if we are not accepting the 9, let us find a middle course in between. If they want the peace to reign, we are 5 on our own side. They should bring 4 from their own side to join our 4, so we work as board. That is key issue there. Then we find a way around all the other issues. As I'm sitting down here with you, I told somebody, I said, what I want is this crisis to be resolved so that I will know the next step, whether to pull out. And why I said so is that, you see, when you park passengers inside a bus and you are the driver and you get to a slope and you jump out as a driver, what do you think will happen to the passengers? That bus will crash. Even you as a driver that jump out, you are not too sure. I said, leadership is not when things are okay, you want to enjoy it. When it is not okay, you should be there. I want to remain to see this crisis resolved first, so that it will not go down in history that when Taiwo Mustapha was leading the board, there was this crisis. It was when he left that the crisis will resolve. No. I want the crisis to be resolved while I'm still within. Okay. So, for me, once this crisis is resolved, there are some other suggestions that will come up. Some of us are tired of it, but we don't want to leave when it is like this. We want to see it resolved.
Okay.
So that when we now regain our glory back in the association and in the committee of the either individuals or in the group, in the clearing sector, in the maritime industry, when we regain that glory back, and I can raise my head up anywhere to say, yes, Anlca is one today. Anlca is back on track. Then I will leave it for some other people to continue.